Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a massive, grand story we've all been told about artificial intelligence. It's a story so convincing and, honestly, so universally accepted that we're actively betting our society's entire future on it. We've asked AI to tackle literally our hardest problems. We want it to make our society fairer, our medicine more precise, our economy more efficient. And in response? Well, the machine has given us answers, incredibly confident answers. But we really need to pause for a second and ask ourselves what exactly it is we're trusting. So what if, and really think about this, what if AI's answers are just a sophisticated roll of the dice? That is the core issue we're unpacking today. The truth is, the intelligence that we're blindly trusting with these critical, life-altering decisions is often just a really, really powerful guess. By baking these machine-generated guesses into the very foundation of our daily lives, we're entering a massive, largely unregulated gamble. And we aren't talking about some distant sci-fi movie with killer robots here. This is happening right now.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for how we're going to break it all down today. First, we'll uncover the big AI lie. Then, we'll look at how the machine guesses. After that, we're going to explore the real-world impacts with justice by algorithm and medicine by machine. And finally, we'll map out a path forward with the human in the loop.
All right, Section 1, the big AI lie, or the illusion of truth.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the true misconception we need to clear up. It isn't about whether AI is powerful. It absolutely is a game changer. The danger is actually the massive gap between its perceived reliability and its actual reality. We all kind of operate under this myth that AI thinks, understands, and genuinely knows truth from falsehood, right? But the reality is completely different. What we call AI, especially these large language models, they don't think in any human sense. They're probabilistic engines. Basically, they're incredibly complex systems designed to just predict the most likely next word in a sequence based on mountains of training data. So when an AI writes a brief or analyzes some data, it's not reasoning from first principles. It's just making a highly educated guess about what a correct-sounding answer should look like.
Which brings us to Section 2, how the machine guesses, and the mechanics of AI.
Since these systems are probabilistic, they're fundamentally designed to sound perfectly authoritative and articulate, even when their output is completely and utterly wrong. You've probably heard this phenomenon called a hallucination, and it is absolutely crucial to understand that a hallucination is not just some rare, weird bug that programmers are eventually going to patch out. No, it is an inherent, built-in risk of how these models are designed. Because the machine's only real goal is to predict plausible text, it can, and definitely will, state complete falsehoods with the exact same level of confidence as a verifiable fact.
Our source material uses a really powerful metaphor for this, calling it building a castle on a foundation of sand. I mean, think about the risk there. We're building a world that literally runs on these kinds of confident errors. We're outsourcing our human judgment to systems that inherently don't possess any judgment of their own. Treating these probabilistic outputs as authoritative, absolute truth, it creates a looming crisis of trust. It's a massive gamble.
So let's look at Section 3, Justice by Algorithm, and AI in the Courtroom.
What happens when this foundation of sand meets the real world? Well, let's shift our focus over to the legal system, where algorithmic risk scores are actively being used right now to make life-altering decisions on things like bail and sentencing. The whole original promise of these algorithms was greater objectivity, a way to finally reduce human bias. But drawing from a landmark 2016 ProPublica investigation into a risk assessment tool called Compass, the reality is pretty stark. The tool was actually found to be far more likely to incorrectly label Black defendants as high risk for reoffending. And conversely, white defendants were more likely to be misclassified as low risk. This shows us clear as day that training algorithms on historical data doesn't magically eliminate human bias. It just automates it, scales it up, and hides it behind this shiny veneer of technical neutrality.
And this brilliantly illustrates the total breakdown in logic we saw in the widely reported Mata v. Avianca case. Get this, lawyers were actually sanctioned by a judge after their legal brief, which they drafted with the help of ChatGPT, cited multiple completely non-existent court cases. The AI had literally hallucinated the whole thing. It generated plausible-sounding nonsense in a legal field that relies strictly on verifiable facts. The lawyers just failed to verify the machine's incredibly confident output, and it completely undermined their entire case.
So, this exposes a massive accountability gap, which brings us to a really tough question. When an AI contributes to a flawed legal decision, who is actually responsible? Is it the programmer who built the probabilistic engine, the tech company that sold it, or the judge and the lawyers who blindly trusted the machine? This lack of clear accountability is effectively turning parts of our justice system into a live beta test.
Moving right along to Section 4, Medicine by Machine and High-Stakes Healthcare.
If you thought the stakes in the legal system were high, over in the medical arena, they are literal life and death. AI is being heavily hailed as this revolutionary diagnostic tool, but the risks are profound. Just look at this staggering statistic. According to a 2024 study published in JAMA Pediatrics, when ChatGPT was presented with 100 complex pediatric case challenges, its diagnosis was incorrect a massive 83% of the time. 83%. And the biggest danger here isn't just making a wrong guess. It's often errors of omission, like failing to recommend a necessary test or entirely missing a subtle, life-threatening symptom because the system's reasoning is basically a black box.
This leads perfectly into what we call the co-pilot danger. We love to think of AI as this perfect digital partner or co-pilot, but we risk letting it fly the plane entirely. When doctors or professionals blindly accept flawed AI recommendations, the consequences are devastating. But even deeper than that is the erosion of human critical thinking. Experts are warning about de-skilling. In fact, our source notes a 2026 survey where 50% of C-suite leaders reported they were already observing this exact trend. We're risking creating a generation of professionals who are fantastic at prompting an AI, but maybe far less capable of deep, intuitive cognitive work.
So how do we get out of this? Section 5. The human in the loop, and a path forward. So the crucial point is that the solution isn't to just smash the machines. We need a radical shift in our relationship with them. Step 1. We have to start treating AI as a fallible tool, not some magical, infallible oracle. Step 2. Critical decisions must always have a fully empowered human expert in the loop. And I don't mean someone whose job is just to click approve. I mean someone actively encouraged to question the machine, to override it, and to trust their own hard-earned experience. Using the AI is just one single data point among many. Step 3. We absolutely must enforce transparency and accountability frameworks. We need to strengthen initiatives like the EU AI Act and the US Executive Order, so there's a clear, undeniable chain of responsibility when things go wrong.
The great gamble of our era is not whether we can build intelligent machines. It's whether we can remain intelligent ourselves while using them. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. What do you think is the absolute biggest risk of over-relying on AI? Are we moving way too fast? Or do you think I'm just being a bit too cautious here? Let's get a debate going in the comments below. And hey, if this explainer helped clarify the real state of AI for you, please subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. Thanks so much for learning with me today.